Okay, picture this. You find yourself standing in the shadows of a crumbling villa just outside Rome. It's dawn, June 9th, 68 AD, morning mist everywhere.
Yeah, and the air isn't just damp, it's thick with fear.
Exactly. And through a door, you hear him. The most powerful man in the world, Emperor Nero, the guy who burned cities, killed his own mother, and he's sobbing like a child.
Absolutely pathetic. And muttering that famous line, right?
Qualis artifex purio. What an artist dies in me. Can you believe it?
It's almost unbelievable, isn't it? The sheer narcissism, even then.
This is the monster who kicked his pregnant wife to death, castrated a boy to replace her, supposedly fiddled while Rome burned, and he ends up like this, cowering, unable to even kill himself properly.
It's a staggering fall. How does someone with that much power end up so utterly broken and cowardly?
That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to trace that path, look at the life that led him to that miserable, wretched end. It's a story about absolute power and, well, absolute depravity.
A chilling combination.
Okay, so let's unpack this. To really get Nero's end, we have to go back, way back. To the beginning, his family, the whole poisoned atmosphere of imperial power he grew up in.
Absolutely. You can't understand Nero without understanding the legacy he inherited. He was born Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, December 15th, 37 AD. And his family history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
It's just generations of brutality. His great-great-grandfather apparently displayed severed heads in Gaul. His grandfather gouged out a Roman knight's eye. And his own father, Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus.
What about him?
Well, upon Nero's birth, he reportedly said, "Nothing that was not abominable and a public bane could be born of Agrippina and myself."
Chillingly prophetic. He basically called his own son a monster from day one.
Pretty much. And then there's the mother, Agrippina the Younger. She's a whole other story.
Imperial blood, sister of Caligula, great-granddaughter of Augustus.
Okay.
Utterly ruthless, right?
Oh, absolutely. Ruthless ambition combined with that lineage. She'd already been exiled for plotting, probably had a hand in her first husband's convenient death. Her entire focus was getting her son, Lucius, onto that throne.
She sounds terrifyingly effective. So Caligula gets assassinated. How does she claw her way back from exile and put Nero in position?
She was a master strategist. Caligula dies in 41 AD. Her uncle Claudius takes over. First step, marry the incredibly wealthy Passianus Crispus.
Who then conveniently dies.
Precisely, leaving her loaded. Then she sets her sights higher. Her uncle, the Emperor Claudius himself.
Wait, uncle and niece, wasn't that illegal in Rome?
Technically, yes. But, when you're the emperor, laws are flexible. Claudius's current wife, Messalina, made a fatal mistake, got herself executed, and boom, Agrippina marries Claudius. She's empress.
So young Lucius, now Nero sees his mother pull this off, become empress. That must have set his course.
Completely. Agrippina didn't waste a second. She gets Claudius to adopt Nero, changing his name to Nero Claudius Caesar Drusus Germanicus, gives him precedence over Claudius's own son, Britannicus.
How old was Nero then?
He gets the toga of manhood at 13, proclaimed heir at 14, married to Claudius's daughter Octavia at 15. It was lightning fast, all Agrippina's doing.
But she wasn't willing to wait for Claudius to die naturally, was she? That seems unlike her.
Not at all. Patience wasn't her virtue. October 54 AD, Claudius has dinner. His favorite dish, mushrooms.
Oh no! Don't tell me.
Yep. Poisoned mushrooms courtesy of Agrippina. And just to be sure, when he was struggling, she supposedly got the infamous poisoner Locusta to finish him off with a poisoned feather down his throat.
Grim. So Claudius is dead, and just like that, Nero is emperor. At 17.
17 years old, thrust onto the throne.
And initially you hear these odd stories. He seems almost humane, saying he wished he'd never learned to write when asked to sign a death warrant. Reducing taxes. It sounds almost promising.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it was mostly a facade, likely guided by his advisors Seneca and Burrus. Seneca himself wrote about having nightmares that he was teaching Caligula all over again. That tells you something.
A prophetic nightmare indeed. So the cruelty was already there, just lurking.
Oh, it was there.
And
it didn't take long to surface. His first major act of personal cruelty? The murder of his stepbrother, Britannicus.
Claudius's actual son, the potential rival.
Exactly. Britannicus was only 14, quiet, no real threat. But Nero couldn't stand even the shadow of a rival.
And this happens right out in the open. At a dinner party. That's just brazen.
Literally brazen. Britannicus asks for his wine to be cooled. The water they bring him is poisoned, again by Locusta. He collapses, starts convulsing, dies right there in front of everyone.
And Nero, what does he do?
Doesn't bat an eyelid. Keeps eating. calmly tells the shocked guests it's just an epileptic fit, something Britannica supposedly suffered from, cold as ice.
Wow. That's the monster learning its power, isn't it? Tasting blood.
Precisely. A calculated public display.
So for a few years after that, things were relatively calm, the so-called quinquennium Neronis, while Seneca, Burrus, and Agrippina kept him somewhat in check.
Relatively, yes. But the tensions were building. Agrippina wasn't content being the power behind the throne. She wanted to be on it, almost literally, demanding to sit beside him, have her face on coins.
She wanted co-rule, essentially.
Pretty much, and Nero hated it. He wanted the fun parts of being emperor, the chariot racing, the singing, the affairs without his mother constantly looking over his shoulder, judging him.
And then Poppaea Sabina arrives on the scene, young, beautiful, and dangerous.
Extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Beautiful, sensual, completely amoral. And she started whispering in Nero's ear, telling him he wasn't really emperor while his mother pulled the strings, that he was just Agrippina's puppet.
Fueling his resentment.
Exactly. And Agrippina made a huge mistake. She started making noises about supporting Britannicus, even though he was dead, hinting maybe she'd backed the wrong horse.
That sounds like poking the bear.
It was suicide. Nero decided Agrippina had to go.
But how? She was powerful, popular, and probably paranoid about poison after Claudius.
He needed something clever, something that looked like an accident. So he commissions this incredible, elaborate, collapsible boat.
A collapsible boat, seriously.
Seriously. Designed so the cabin roof, weighted with lead, would collapse and crush whoever was inside. And the whole thing would sink. A tragic accident at sea.
Okay, that's Bond villain level ingenuity right there. How did it play out?
He invites her to a festival at Baiae, acts all affectionate. On the way back, at sea, they trigger the mechanism. But it malfunctions.
It doesn't work.
Not properly.
Yeah.
The roof collapses, but it glances off Agrippina. It does kill her friend, Acerronia, who was sitting nearby. But Agrippina, she realizes what's happening, dives overboard and swims for it.
She swims ashore after a murder boat tried to crush her.
Incredible, right? She was tough. But now the plan was blown. She knew he'd tried to kill her.
Nero must have been terrified. She survived.
Pure panic. He knew she wouldn't stay quiet. So he drops all pretense of an accident and sends Admiral Anicetus and some soldiers to her villa to just finish the job.
So they just storm in.
They surround the villa, break in. Agrippina faces them down. Her supposed last words were directed at the centurion about to strike her. "Strike my womb first," pointing to her belly. "Strike the body that bore such a monster."
Wow, even in death, defiant. Her murder must have been a massive turning point for Nero.
Huge. The last major restraint was gone. He'd killed his own mother. After that, the descent accelerates rapidly.
And the rumors started flying, right? That he went to view her body, commented on its features.
Horrifying rumors. Whether they're literally true or not, the fact people believe them shows what they thought he'd become, something barely human. Seneca and Burrus lost their influence. Burrus died suspiciously. Seneca was forced into retirement. Nero was finally unleashed.
Completely unrestrained, answerable to no one. What happens next? His wife, Octavia.
Octavia was a constant reminder of his arranged marriage, of Claudius, of traditional virtue, everything he now despised. Poppaea wanted to be empress. So Nero divorces Octavia on grounds of infertility, then trumps up charges of adultery.
But the public didn't buy it.
Not at all. They loved Octavia. There were riots in Rome demanding her return. Statues of Poppaea were torn down, Octavia's were garlanded with flowers.
So Nero backed down.
For a moment. But Poppaea wasn't having it. She convinced him the riots proved Octavia was plotting against him. So Nero doubles down.
Oh no, what does he do?
He has Octavia exiled to the island of Pandateria, and then shortly after, sends soldiers to kill her. She was only 20.
20 years old. Executed on his orders.
And supposedly her severed head was brought back to Rome and presented to Poppaea. A wedding gift.
That is beyond grotesque. Just utterly depraved.
It sets the stage for what comes next.
Which brings us to the really infamous event, the Great Fire of Rome in July 64 AD.
July 18th, a massive fire breaks out near the Circus Maximus, spreads rapidly through the tightly packed city, rages for 6 days and 7 nights.
Yeah.
Utter devastation. Maybe 3/4 of Rome destroyed or damaged.
And the story everyone remembers thanks to Tacitus.
Is Nero watching from a tower, dressed in stage costume, playing his lyre, and singing about the fall of Troy while his own city burns below.
Finding artistic inspiration in the inferno. Whether it literally happened like that or not, it captures his utter detachment, doesn't it?
Perfectly. His complete disconnect from human suffering. While people were losing everything, their homes, their families, he's thinking about epic poetry.
And then, almost immediately, he starts planning his replacement. The Domiceria, the Golden House.
Right. While bodies are still being pulled from the rubble, this wasn't just rebuilding. This was a megalomaniacal fantasy palace. It covered huge swaths of the burnt city, maybe a third of it. Artificial lakes, rotating dining rooms, gold leaf, jewels everywhere, even a colossal 120-foot statue of himself.
Building his pleasure dome on the ashes of Rome. No wonder people started whispering he'd started the fire himself.
Exactly. The whispers grew louder. He needed a scapegoat, and fast.
And he found one. The Christians.
This small, relatively unknown religious sect. Easy targets, misunderstood, viewed with suspicion already. Nero blames them for the fire.
And the persecution was just sadistic theater, wasn't it?
Pure sadism disguised as punishment. He used Christians as human torches to light his garden parties.
Yeah.
Sewed them into animal skins and had them torn apart by dogs in the arena. Crucifixions. And Nero himself would apparently circulate among the crowds, sometimes dressed as a charioteer overseeing the spectacles for artistic effect.
It just keeps getting worse. But somehow, he sinks even lower. Poppaea, the wife he killed Octavia for. She doesn't survive him either.
No.
Well,
In 65 AD, she was pregnant again. Suetonius tells us that during an argument, supposedly because Nero came home late from the chariot races, he flew into a rage and kicked her violently in the abdomen.
he kicked his pregnant wife.
That's the account. The blow caused a miscarriage or complications that led to her death. Either way, he killed her and their unborn child.
Unbelievable. And after Poppaea's death, his solution is Sporus. This is where it enters truly nightmarish territory.
It's profoundly disturbing. He finds this young boy, Sporus, who apparently resembled Poppaea, and Nero decides he wants to essentially turn Sporus into Poppaea. He orders the imperial physicians to castrate the boy, publicly. Then he has Sporus dressed in the former empress's clothes, teaches him to act like a woman, calls him Sabina, and stages a formal wedding ceremony where Sporus is the bride.
A public wedding to a castrated boy dressed as his dead wife.
Yes, and then subjects him to constant public humiliation and undoubtedly horrific private abuse. Sporus becomes this tragic figure, trapped, existing solely for Nero's warped desires.
Meanwhile, the empire is, well, it's not running itself, is it? While he's doing all this.
His focus is entirely on his own pleasures and performances. Nobles forced into gladiatorial combat for his amusement, wandering the streets at night, assaulting people, these orgiastic dinner parties where torture and executions became part of the entertainment. He literally said his art was enhanced by the presence of real suffering.
And the Greece trip. The ego tour.
Oh, the trip to Greece in 66-67 AD. He entered himself into all the artistic and athletic competitions, singing, acting, chariot racing, and guess what?
Well, and everything.
Every single event, including a chariot race at Olympia, where he fell out of the chariot and still got the winner's crown. He collected something like 1,800 victory crowns. It was a farce.
And presumably bankrupted the treasury doing it.
Completely. Leading to more taxes, more confiscations back in Rome. The Roman elite were utterly embarrassed. The people were furious. The legions were getting restless.
Which leads, inevitably, to rebellion.
Revolts break out. Vindex in Gaul, Galba in Spain. But Nero, incredibly, is initially more interested in designing new musical instruments and planning punishments as theatrical spectacles.
He sees it as more drama for his life's performance.
It seems so. He even talks about going on an artistic tour of Egypt because they'd appreciate him more there. While Galba is literally marching on Rome, then the final blow, the Praetorian Guard declares for Galba. They abandon him.
The emperor's own bodyguards turn against him.
He's suddenly powerless. On June 8th, 68 AD, the Senate declares him a public enemy, sentenced to death by flogging, the most humiliating execution, usually reserved for slaves or the lowest criminals.
And he's completely alone.
Utterly alone. He wanders his palace, which is now empty, his guards, his friends, his hangers-on all gone, just weeping, raging, calling for Sporus, who's also vanished. He briefly considers fleeing to Parthia.
Does he realize anyone is left who might help him?
He sends messages out, but no one responds. Not a single senator, not a single knight, not even his musicians will come. The terror he inspired now leaves him totally isolated.
So he has to flee. Where does he go?
He sneaks out of the palace with a few loyal freedmen, including Phaon and his secretary, Epaphroditus. They head to Phaon's villa a few miles outside the city.
But it's not exactly a dignified escape, is it?
Not remotely. He's on foot, disguised in a drab cloak, has to hide his face. At one point, they have to crawl through reeds and brambles to reach a back entrance to the villa, then through a narrow tunnel into a small, squalid basement room. The Emperor of Rome crawling on his hands and knees to hide in a cellar.
The ultimate humiliation, and this is where he really loses it.
Completely breaks down. News keeps arriving. Galva's in the city. The Senate has confirmed the death sentence. Soldiers are actively hunting him. And then, the final insult. Word comes that his own servants are back at the palace looting his possessions.
And that's what breaks him, his stuff.
Yes, he starts sobbing uncontrollably, not about his impending death, but about his beautiful things, his costumes, his lyres. It's mind-boggling. Epaphroditus tries to snap him out of it, reminds him the soldiers will arrive soon and the flogging will be far worse.
Does he finally grasp the reality?
He seems to grasp the danger, but not the justice. He keeps muttering about being an artist, not a warrior. He orders them to dig a grave, measuring it against his own body, weeping all the while about the artist the world is losing.
Still performing even then. So the soldiers are closing in. How does it actually end? Does he find any courage?
None whatsoever. He
Huh.
takes a dagger, tests the point, but can't win himself to do it. He begs one of his freedmen to kill him first, as an example. No one will. He just keeps trembling, whining, procrastinating.
Pathetic doesn't even begin to cover it.
Then they hear the horses. The soldiers are almost there. Epaphroditus knows it's now or never. Nero makes another feeble attempt, places the dagger point somewhere near his throat.
And can't push it in.
His hand is shaking too much, or his nerve fails completely.
Epaphroditus.
Seeing the soldiers arriving, steps forward and forces the blade into Nero's neck.
His secretary basically has to help him commit suicide.
Exactly. And as he's dying, choking on his own blood, a centurion bursts in. Nero gasps out his final, incredibly ironic words.
Qualis artifex perio. What an artist dies in me.
The ultimate self-delusion, right to the very end.
In Rome, how did they react to the news?
Explosive joy, celebrations in the streets, people felt liberated, the nightmare was over. The Senate immediately ordered damnatio memoriae, condemnation of his memory. His name was scraped off monuments, statues melted down, that vast golden house, the Domiceria. They filled it in, buried it, and eventually built the Colosseum right on top of its artificial lake. A deliberate erasure.
And Sporus. What happened to him?
He just disappears from the historical record, probably faded back into the anonymity he came from, if he survived the chaos that followed Nero's death. It really makes you think, doesn't it, about what happens when someone that morally bankrupt, that disconnected from reality, gets absolute power.
It ended the Julio-Claudian dynasty, threw Rome into civil war, the year of the four emperors. A stark warning. And his inability to see himself clearly, even at the end calling himself an artist. That's maybe the most chilling part.
It really is. He's become this archetype, hasn't he? The tyrant consumed by ego, cruelty, and delusion, surrounded by enablers until it all collapses. His end wasn't a tragedy for Rome. It was a necessary, if brutal, correction.
So here's something to leave you with, something to really chew on. What are the true costs to a society and to the individual soul when a leader stops seeing their role as a responsibility and starts seeing their entire life and the lives of others as just a performance?